everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We're going to start sharing a little bit more of some of the stuff we find out when we're doing our research or when we're on courses and reading books. Stuff like when we're reflecting with the coaching team after sessions about what's going on, some of the things that we're finding generally, that are just going to be useful for parents and coaches, really. And today we're going to talk about focus. This is something there's a lot of research in this area, and it's not the sit down, pay attention, sit still, concentrate sort of focus. This is something called attentional focus, and I found it really interesting when I started looking at this area. It's been brought up again on a course I'm doing at the minute, and I just thought it'd be quite useful for parents and coaches, as I say, to just go into a little bit more detail about what it is. So, attentional focus. What is it? Why should you care? Here's the sciencey bit, I guess. Researchers, there's loads of research, not just in football, kids football. There's research in lots of different sports, lots of different activities with children, with adults about this area. And it's basically looking at two types of focus. There's internal focus, which is where, in a football terms, a child would focus on their body movements. So, for example, bend your knee, lock your ankle, that sort of thing. That's internal focus. But external focus is where you're focusing more, the child will focus more on the effect of that movement, the outcome. So it might be that kick the ball to that bottom corner, kick the ball and hit that cone, that sort of thing. So that's the difference between internal and external. And why it matters is that a lot of the research suggests that focusing on the external outcome, so external focus, is much better when it comes to learning and performing, so being able to perform that skill in the future. There's, as I say, it's not just football that this has been done on. There's lots and lots of other sports and activities that where this has sort of been proven, where the external focus beats the internal focus pretty much every time. So basically, kids will learn faster with external focus. This is why it matters to us as coaches and parents in the football world. Kids will learn faster. They play a little bit more freely as well. So if we're asking them to focus on the outcomes, it's they get out of their heads, I suppose, a little bit more and are a little bit more free. It suggests they're a little bit more self-conscious of their movements and so forth. So they should hopefully feel a little bit more confident, and they don't. You might find that they freeze less. So if you start telling a child to do it like this, put your foot there, put your hand here, blah blah blah, then you might find that they start freezing up. They get a little bit tight because they're so conscious of, are they doing that right? Are they doing that technique? Are they doing that skill correctly? Is their arm in the right place? Is their foot in the right place? So by getting them out of the body and focusing externally, it should stop that. It should mean that they're just a little bit more free with the movement. What this means for you as a parent, a football parent or a coach, and it doesn't matter in terms of parents. It doesn't matter if you're listening to this as a parent with children who are 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever, played a lot of football, or if you've got a toddler. It's useful information. It's things that I certainly try with my girls. But let's bring it to life. Let's say, for example, you've got a 7-year-old after school one day, you're out in the garden with them, and they're learning to shoot at goal. They're kicking the football at goal. You, me, and a lot of people listening to this will be very tempted to say, put your standing foot next to the ball before you hit it, lock your ankle and swing it through, all that sort of stuff that has been around since time began. And as I say, personally, as somebody that's done countless amounts of one-to-ones and so forth, so I do a lot of this stuff. I in terms of having a child there with me, it's just me and that child, and I do a lot of this technical stuff. And I've been guilty of this in the past hundreds of times. So we've all been there. We've all done it. I actually had a one-to-one on Saturday at the time of recording, and there was a dad after me just playing around with his son, and I heard him doing these things. It's really, really interesting. We all do it, but the research suggests that a better approach would be, as I said before, aim to hit the cone in the bottom of the goal. So maybe you place a cone there where you want them to hit. You want to use it in the corners. Hit the cone in the bottom corner, or see if you can hit the back of the net. Those sorts of things, the research suggests, are better for learning and better for performing. So the brain seems to, or child's brain seems to learn better when it's focused on the effect of the action. It's not about the muscles doing it. So the outcome, like I said before. Other examples of this that we will have all done. An internal cue, an internal focus might be push the ball with your inside of your foot. Everybody says that when children start learning to pass, use the inside of your foot. But it might be better to say something like, just kick the ball to that person, kick the ball to that cone, whatever it might be. That's might be a better thing to do. Sprinting, I used to be a big fan of, drive your arms and put your feet here and put your feet there. But something better than that might be try to sprint like you're a cheetah, running after some food, running after some prey, especially when you're working with the younger ones. Land softly on your feet. If you're doing jumping stuff, it may be that try to land like a ninja, try to land softly like a ninja. Put your foot next to the ball. This is a big one. This is one, and this is one of the things that I really struggled with when it came to external focus, because when I work with beginners, certainly on a one-to-one basis, you often find that their standing foot is further away from the ball when they go to kick it, particularly when they're dribbling. They'll try to dribble and shoot, or dribble and pass, and their right foot, the left foot is so far behind the ball, and then they're sort of reaching to the ball, so their power is very, very is minimised, I guess. And this was one I really struggled with for a long time, but one that I introduced in my sessions, and if I'm working with beginners in one-to-ones or in groups, is step on the power button next to the ball. Some people might say squish the bug next to the ball, whatever it might be, but step on that power button next to the ball. So then it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to step my foot next to that ball, then kick it. And obviously then they should start to, once they repeat, that should just become normality. It should just be an unconscious habit. And then they get the power in the shots. Lock your ankle, could change it to something like make your foot a hammer. Control the ball with the sole of your foot could turn into something like squish the ball like a tomato. That's something that we do with our first touch groups, particularly the toddlers. We get them to squish the ball. It could be that if you're looking at sole control, it's squish the ball, squish the tomato, squish the orange. Maybe if you want them to try and control it with the inside of your foot, it's something like make your foot into a pillow and cushion the ball. Those sorts of things. So they're the examples, really. They're the examples of some of the different sorts of cues that we can use, and maybe what some of the stuff that we've used in the past that you might want to change. So tips for parents is you can have some fun with this, and I think this is the one of the big takeaways. There's a lot of people listening to this that will get out in the garden, get out in the park. There'll be coaches listening to this that are working with complete beginners that are struggling with certain bits. Maybe they're using their toes to kick the ball and all that sort of stuff. So using metaphors can turn it into a bit more of a game, and it brings it down to their level as well. So it could be like kick it like you're launching a rocket, and little things like that just get them thinking outside of their body. Those can be really, really helpful. But one thing that I think I found helpful is to set up targets and stuff like that. So targets, and give them little challenges. So it might be that I'll put a target next to in the corner, and I do this with older players. Target in the corner, or wrap something around the crossbar that they have to try and hit. And then I just shut up. I just keep quiet and say hit that. And then just watch, rep, and just see what's happening and what can I do to help, any questions I can ask. But giving him that external focus first before I do anything else just seems to help. Stuff like for power, I've used a lot of there was a challenge going around years ago, wasn't there, about I think it was back of the net challenge or something, where the ball had to hit the net before it bounced to count as a goal. That was a brilliant one, and you can start really easy with that as well. You can have children close to the goal, and they take a step back and step back and step back, and every time they get hit the net before it bounces, and then you can start doing it again where they do a little dribble and shoot and got to do the same thing. So it's just getting them to focus outside of their heads, I suppose, outside of their body, and it does help. That's the thing. The thing with all of this is I've tried these things and they do help. There are times when you might need to adapt it, which I'll come on to shortly, but certainly give these sorts of things a try. Just ask them things like, what is it you want the ball to do? What do you want the ball to do? Listen to what they're saying and then let them explore it, but avoid overcoaching and having sort of like I used to, a checklist of things for passing, for shooting. They must do this. Their ankle must be locked. Their foot must be here, and blah blah blah. Thinking I'm doing the right thing, but sometimes it's about letting children take control and ownership of their learning, and that might involve this sort of stuff, letting them focus on other things, not just what's going on with their bodies and with their muscles and bones and everything else, all their limbs. So make it playful, make it visual, and make it relatable as well. There might be things that your child likes, certain characters. It may be that you do a Hulk related thing if they're into superheroes, or a Spider-Man thing, whatever, but try and take it back to them. It might be like, Thor, for example, turn your foot into Thor's hammer. These sorts of things that are just, and this is what it's about. It's what football's about. Certainly when you are maybe in the garden with your child or park, these sorts of things. You've got a 7-8-year-old, whatever. Just making these things. It's fun. It's fun. That's what it's about. It's not about you turning into a pep. It's making it fun, making it relatable for them, and they'll enjoy it more, want to do it more then. And as I say, these challenges are great. These little mini challenges where they have to hit targets and then they move up a level. It's it becomes like a computer game. They want to get to that next level. So definitely try these sorts of things. It does boost engagement, like I say, because it becomes more like that game, more playful. In my experience, I do find this hard. As I said to you before, I do a lot of one-to-ones, and even in the group stuff, when I see children struggling with things, I have to bite my tongue and stop myself going straight in there to say, no, put your foot here. And literally, I used to get to the point where I'd be grabbing feet. I'd be grabbing feet and putting it here, putting it there, and whatever else. And, there's probably some transfer. Don't get me wrong, there probably is some transfer there. But some of this research seems to suggest that the best way is to get them out of the bodies, let them focus externally, then let them explore, let them take ownership of that before we decide then to intervene again. So I had an example recently, last few months. I had a boy come down. He really suffering with confidence, pretty late to football. I think he just started high school this year, but he's not done loads of football, certainly in a formal setting. So we got him in for one-to-ones to build up his confidence, and I explained to his dad that it's the group stuff that he needs. That's what's going to really help him. But I listened to their concerns as well. They were just conscious of him. They know what he's like, and that going in straight into a group might not be best. Getting familiar with the environment, get him doing lots of reps, lots of kicking, making him feel $1 million, then get him in there. That's the best way. So that's what we did. And the first session I had him down. He's shooting. Kept going to the left all the time, missing the goal, and I went back. I reverted back to the internal thing. Put your foot here, point your shoulders there, etc., and it just didn't. It just wasn't registering, and I went home, replanned the session for next week, and just remembered some of this stuff that I'd been. The worst thing was, I think I'd gone back over this on the course. Probably a couple of weeks before, and yet still reverted to type. It's so easy to do because we've all been conditioned to do this sort of thing. But then I went back the week after and I just put a target. I literally just put a target in the goal and said hit that, and the success rate was so much better. And from that, I was able to work out that that particular child learnt better externally. So then after that, it was more external focus that I gave him, external cues. And that was such a simple thing to do, and it worked. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still loads of work to do there. We're not saying that child's completed shooting or anything like that. It's not. It's just progress and learning. There's something that's happened that's been a positive step forward. So roll with it. Let's keep it going. First touch sessions, certainly the indoor ones when we are doing toddlers, preschoolers, and so on. We very, very rarely give any instruction related to foot, hand, knee, leg. It's we put some goals down and then we get reps in as much as possible. And anyone listening to has listened to us in the past, we know that that's opposed reps where possible. But putting that aside, it's getting them kicking at a goal without much instruction from us, and slowly but surely you start to see the progress. You start to see that they're no longer using their toes to kick it anymore. They start to use their laces. That might be that we need to question sometimes, but it just comes because there'll be a lot of people listening to this question. Well, it can't be as simple as putting a target in the goal and things like that, and that's not what we're saying. This is not going to be a the magic formula to make sure your child's hitting the top corner every time. But what we're saying is that this research suggests that the learning and development is better when you do use these sorts of things. So try it, give it a try, especially if your child's struggling with something. But certainly in those first touch sessions, very much external. Just hit the goal. We might put a cone in that goal. We might all sorts of stuff. We might have things to dodge, whether that be a coach or whatever, instead of us saying, you must dribble like this. They start to realise, oh yeah, we question what about, was it tiny touches we did there? Was it big touches we did there? And they just these little questions, but the external focus and giving them time, giving them reps, it all just starts to come together with consistency. So yeah, it's something that we do a lot, and it's been good. The people with the toes thing. A lot of parents talk to us about that, about children kicking with toes. I had it with my girls. Just completely aside from what we're talking about, one of the things that helped my girls was volleys. I love volleys, and so we just do volleys in the garden for ages, and it worked, because if they're kicking a bouncing ball, they're going to be kicking it whilst it's in the air. And a lot of the time that will involve them using their laces, which is what we want when kids are shooting 9 times out of 10. So yeah, that just seemed to force the issue a little bit, and after quite some time they seem to be doing it, but every now and again they will get the toes back involved. But yeah, volleys, do volleys. If you want to be really cruel, you could get a really heavy football and then make them do it in bare feet. As soon as they kick the ball with the toes with a really heavy ball, they won't be doing it again. That's a joke, by the way. You don't need to be doing that. So, takeaways. Try letting your child explore what they focus on. Because across all this research, there was some that also suggested that when we give kids the choice of what to focus on, whether that be internal or external, they perform even better longer term. And this comes down to giving them the control and the autonomy over their learning, because that can be really, really, really powerful. But as I say, more often than not, this external focus seems to be the thing that wins. But the thing there is let them try whatever this. Let's say shooting. Let's keep it simple. Let them try their shooting, and then ask them, what did they focus on? If they're struggling, what did they focus on? And if they say, I tried to put my foot here and did put my foot there and my hands here and whatever, my knee over the ball, head over the ball, all that stuff, then that's your cue to give them another idea. So that's when you can start using your external cues. Well, just focus on hitting the back of that net, or hitting that target in that goal, that cone, whatever. If they're experiencing success, then fine, leave them to it. But the things that they're struggling with, that might be when you can come in and give them these questions and find out what they're focusing on, and then flip it. If they're internally focused and it's working, leave them to it. But if it's, for example, something where they're really struggling, that's your chance then. That's your moment to change it and say, all right, well, if it's internal focus, let's go external. If it's external focus, let's go internal, and just see what works. Just see what works and test it out with your child. So letting them experiment with the cues and asking what's worked, brilliant. That's the way to go, really, because then it's they've controlled it. They're controlling their learning. They're in their minds, they probably know better than most into how they learn, and so let them try it. Let them try these things. There was one paper, actually. We'll link some of these if you are really boring and want to read science papers, but we'll do it for you. There was one study that they did 3 types of things. They did the external, so that was like focus on the target. I think it was like a gate, 2 cones. They had to get it in between the 2 cones. Then there was a group that focused on the body movements, put your foot here and hit the side, hit it with your side of your foot and all that. But then there was a middle one, and that was they put red tape on the shoes, put red tape on the trainers, and they had to hit the football. The focus was basically hitting the football with the red tape. They still found that the externally focused group, they perform much better, but that paper was with skilled footballers, so I think children that had been playing for X amount of time. What some of it says is that beginners might benefit from something like that, something like a target on their trainer, maybe a rubber band or something. But overall, it seems like the external stuff is where it's at. But you can experiment, try that. If they're still struggling with the external stuff and they need a bit more help, then just try it. Try these different things. It's good to experiment to find out what makes your child tick. So anyone, I guess some final thoughts. Anyone listening to this that's ever tried a new sport. So for me, in the past few years, I've tried to get into golf. I'm currently trying to get into paddle. My back and my knee are not enjoying that one, but we shall see how it goes. Certainly in golf, when I started to think about put my elbow here, do this with my hands, grip it like this, I fell to pieces, and it was just so robotic, and there was no freedom in the movement, and didn't have much success at all. But when I started to focus more on, when I thought about some of this stuff, it was like focusing more on the pin, focusing more on an area of the fairway or something, and just having that as the target, and then just swinging. I seem to have more success than when I focus more on the body movement. Now, I should also caveat that with I am terrible at golf, but what I mean is, in terms of me learning, that seems to be how I perform better. And certainly when we've been playing a lot of paddle recently, myself and Nick are doing our best to be to get up that Platonic rating for anybody that's listening and playing paddle. But same thing, when I've started to think about my wrist or how much I'm swinging and where my arm is and stuff like that, it's just not as good. It just doesn't flow as much. But whereas I just think push the ball to that part of the court, that seems to help me a lot more. That's me, and as I say, I'm certainly not certainly not the best at either of those sports because I'm focusing externally. But with practice, who knows? But certainly, from my point of view, that external focus does seem to, going back to what we said earlier, just seem to relax you a little bit more. Just gives you a bit more fluidness and freedom, I guess. So maybe that's the same for children as well. Maybe that's why this research seems to point towards the external focus being the way to go. So that's the stuff we've been learning recently and on one of the courses. And we looked at this quite some time ago actually, but then it was good to revisit it on the course because I'd sort of put it to one side, and it's been good because I've been getting it back into my sessions as much as I can now with some success. So try things with your child and see how it goes. Any questions, email us, drop us a comment, whatever it might be. And anyone with any good metaphors and things like that to use with this, because I'm still trying to come up with stuff about shooting power or passing or whatever, like these things that I can use to help children focus externally. It's pretty hard. It's hard to come up with a lot of it. So if you've got anything, please do share. Because I like the power button one. I was pleased with that one, but there'll be loads more. There'll be people listening to this that have got so many ideas. So please do share them because it's always good to know and good to expand my learning as well in things like this. But as I say, any questions, anything at all, let us know. We'll link some of the research in the in the show notes just for people to, if they want to do that. But if you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything like that, please subscribe. If you could leave us a review as well, that'd be great. We get a lot of nice comments about the podcast. We're trying to grow it and get it to more parents and coaches because it does seem to help. There seems to be a lot of people taking bits of advice and tips from it, and it's helping. So we do like that. But as always, thank you for listening. We'll be back again soon.